Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Example, and I'm here to do my day job in my time off. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the role romance plays in setting up the hook for Skyward Sword, the way Nintendo used a romantic relationship between this version of Link and this version of Zelda to motivate players to finish the story. Now, most Zelda games obviously don't feature much romance, especially not obvious, overt romances like this one. Now, if we look at the trend across past and future Zelda titles, we can clearly see that the modus operandi usually is to do a bit of brief world building by establishing some basic lore, and then throwing players into the fire, so to speak. That's because in the average Zelda game, the hook isn't an emotional connection to our characters, or a romantic relationship between Link and Zelda. It's usually just the promise of enjoying the traditional exploring and dungeon-crawling adventures of this series. In Skyward Sword, however, right from the start the tone is different. Instead of just giving the player a bit of backstory and some context, then throwing them immediately into the experience, we can tell right away that this game will be character-driven. It's story-focused. These scenes are building characterization, they're getting us familiar with our cast, and of course with our hook. As you can see, we're already beginning to establish hints of a romantic relationship between these two. Just look at the text in this letter she sent him. The subtext couldn't be more clear. You promised to meet me before the wing ceremony starts. Remember? Yeah, I'm sure he does remember. You'd better not keep me waiting, Zelda. So, Link and Zelda do meet up before the ceremony starts, and she seems happy to see him. She wanted him to be the first one to see her in this new outfit that she made, which is classic. It's a pretty common sentiment both inside and outside Japan, and it's always set in a romantic context. We also see here Zelda's own father explicitly pointing out that she gets jealous when Link appears to share a special bond with someone else. We see that she becomes a different person, quote-unquote, when she worries about Link, and that he is established to want to spend some alone time with Zelda, to the point that even these side characters know about it. Finally, from these early scenes, we can see that Link and Zelda spend all their time together, and that their lives are completely intertwined, even at this point in the story. These little details that flesh out the relationship between Link and Zelda are crucial to the progression of the narrative, and they serve to get us as players attached to Zelda, acting in our capacity as Link. The romantic buildup happens extremely quickly because she will be the linchpin to our motivations throughout Skyward Sword, and we need to get very attached very quickly. We can see here Link winning the right to that alone time he was so looking forward to with Zelda, and he carries her off, bridal style in his arms. She seems all too excited herself to get on top of that statue, the goddess statue, with him. And if you thought that was fast, in the next scene, we already get our official confirmation that this game is a romantic drama at heart. Alright, so what is this? What is it that we're watching right now? Well, it's a kiss, basically. The reason this scene works and makes sense to us as viewers is that not only do we know it's teasing a kiss, the characters know it too. Link and Zelda are both fully aware right now that this is a kiss, that she's teasing a kiss, and that's where all this personality and vivid chemistry is coming from, where the tension is coming from, with or without Link saying a word. Their spectacular character designs are, of course, also pulling a bit of weight, but if it wasn't already obvious enough, the OST playing right now in the background to this scene, the song is called Romance, and it plays whenever Link and Zelda are on screen together. Really, it couldn't be more overt if it tried. So, now that they've had this intimate moment together, they are basically going to decide to go off on a date, because the weather is so nice, to fly around Skyloft a bit, where she will attempt to make a confession. She tries to tell him about her feelings here, but the story does begin in earnest at this point, so she's interrupted before she can do so and snatched away from our hero. Now, as we've grown so attached to Zelda as a romantic interest and we've become so invested in their story, it's the perfect time to take her from us and force Link to go on a long, perilous journey to get her back. From here on out, we catch up to Zelda at various points throughout the story, just to refresh our own connection to her and build up anticipation for their final reunion at the end of the game. She is delighted to see Link every time, of course, but they are separated again and again. Like I said before, just building up anticipation for this climactic character payoff when they're finally able to be together. At this point in the story, she's going to put herself in a deep sleep to help maintain the barrier on Demise, the antagonist of the game, and we won't be able to wake her until he's beaten. Coming so close to finally being reunited with her just spurs us on, and Link mirrors this desperation, trying his best to reach out to her. Nonetheless, after claiming the power of the Triforce, we will be able to do just that, reach her and wake her from her sleep. It's a joyous moment, and she does collapse into our arms at last. Now, in the typical Zelda game, Link rescues Zelda trying to save the world. It's like a byproduct of saving the world, where she's basically just acting as a random princess who happens to be plot necessary. In this game, however, Link rescues Zelda of his own accord because she's his own insanely compelling love interest. This allows Skyward Sword to reward players with more than just the experience of completing the game. Skyward Sword's ending results in canonizing this romance with a big story payoff, and it just goes to show that if you hook a player with gameplay alone, that gameplay becomes its own reward. You hook a player with character-driven emotional ties that interact with our own human feelings and our empathy. You get to pay that off in spades as a reward instead. Welcome to Storytelling 101, all of this without even compromising the traditional Zelda style or gameplay. Now, of course, it wouldn't work if every Zelda game featured a clear romance like this one, but it clearly does work here, and it makes Skyward Sword by far the best in the series from a narrative perspective. Are there better Zelda games? Yeah, sure, lots of them, but are there better Zelda stories? No, not really. As Link and Zelda remain together on the surface and everyone else returns to Skyloft, our gripping love story ends, and we've got this happy ending in hand. This is something that will last, it's memorable, it sticks with us as players for years to come. What about you, Link? What will you do now? This is our final confirmation, and it's the shot that the game ends on. We see both of their birds taking off together into the sky without them on their backs. In other words, they did choose to stay together on Earth and continue to live out their lives the way they originally wanted to, in the company of each other. And that's going to be all for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and I do hope to see you again soon.